Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. And we are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on what does it really mean to move on after a toxic relationship, after a relationship that has really done you in. It's really got you good. It took you hook, line, and sinker like an emotional tsunami and threw you on the beach. And you kind of lay there sort of bruised, hurt, perhaps you're wounded. You've got an opened wound and you're just looking to pick up and move on, but you're finding a lot of difficulty. There's a lot of sand and grit in that wound that you really have to get out very carefully to really heal on a clean cut basis. So really, when we talk about on this channel and what it is to experience severely toxic relationships, yes, they do exist. And really, these are as a result of relationships with someone who is either narcissistic in a covert manner, or meaning kind of sort of under the radar, or overtly, in other words, they're overtly narcissistic, the big ego, malignant narcissists who are really severe, and then the antisocial personality, the psychopath, and the sociopath. So these are the sort of the personality types that tend to be highly manipulative and deceptive in nature, meaning they exploit the good nature, the kindness, and the generosity and the genuineness of others. So it is that which they sort of scrape over and extrapolate all the good from you and sort of leave you feeling drained, empty, squeezed out emotionally, that sometimes you feel so apathetic, you feel that, you don't really have direction, you feel disoriented, lack of focus, lack of interest in things, lack of trust in life, and then furthermore, on a more even deep level, sort of, what tends to then come is then a really chronic and very severe self-doubt, if not low self-esteem, self-sabotaging, self-loathing, not knowing how to get your footing back on track emotionally, sort of getting your perspective because of the depth and the degree to which you've been affected. There's no shame in admitting this. In fact, to really move on, you have to be rigorously honest with yourself. You have to come clean to yourself, not to the narcissist, not make amends with them, not, try to have closure with them, shake hands and part, amicable friends and say, sorry, it didn't work out. Forget all that with these types of relationships.
There comes a point in your life, deep divers,
hold on.
where you have a moment of realness.
Sorry about that. I've got
it's time to start. Oh.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I've got an interruption here. My book and notes just stepped on something. And sorry about that. And we'll go back into it. So looking furthermore into, what does it really mean to move through and really move on successfully? What is required? What is required is rigorous honesty. As you can see from these videos, these are from the heart. I'm not, trying to paint a perfect picture here. This is a genuine healing video. And so as I'm real with you, it gives you the opportunity to be real with yourself. We tend to become very much like the people who we surround ourselves with. So if you have surrounded yourselves with these types of people who are narcissistic, toxic, controlling, manipulative, and then as an adjustment, as a reaction to these types of people, you are living at a disempowered state, meaning you're not in your authenticity, you're not in your genuineness. This gets sort of pushed down or repressed in order to come to terms and level out with these people. Oftentimes in the love bombing stage, and viewers ask, well, how can they love if they don't love? Well, once again, they will coax and manipulate others into their lair, the lion's den. They will set a glorious trap for you to enter into, very much like a cheese catching a mouse. So anyway, to successfully move through what is really required, you need to be rigorously honest with yourself and really go to the depths and be able to go back and look back and understand the cause that's created this effect, or really caused you to stay in a relationship where it was not in your best interest. It was taking you down. It was disempowering you, taking you out of your power. And we do have power. The essence of you, that which is beyond judgment, is the state that you must acknowledge and validate and live from and cultivate within yourself in order to heal, in order to be productive. You do need to have a new beginning, but before you can have a true, clean cut, clean slate, new beginning, just like when you first came into this earth plane, you need to become rigorously honest with yourself through a number of things. And I call this sort of being open and honest with yourself in the privacy of these videos can help you to cultivate this state. Mindfulness, meditation, your recovery date, your meditative walks. I definitely recommend, even if you're not a walker, that you start going on walks for 20 minutes a day just to clear your mind. If you can find a warm place, a path, a place in nature, a mall, around the block, just get out and get some fresh air to help you to get this clean state. And you'll begin to have bubble to the surface these red flags. So in other words, what I call in the book that I'm writing, your lessons learned. You really, really need to come to grips with and embrace and get very clear with yourself. And I recommend writing these down. So your life is your best teacher. Life, you do not stop learning in grade school, elementary school, junior high, high school, or even college. Learning is a lifelong journey. And some people shut themselves out to learning. They're kind of like, they just sort of float around, they flounder around, they're in sort of this hover plateau mediocre state. Well, if you want to get to that state, you certainly can. You might want to retire in that sort of blissful, state where you're not really sort of engaging in much. However, if you really want to heal and come to peace, which is the most valuable sort of mindset that you can come to, along with gratitude, which is coming into a peaceful state within your own body, kind of coming down, sort of decompressing from this hyper aroused state, which comes with the whirlwind of the aftermath of coming out of one of these relationships, is to be rigorously honest with yourself and to have a look back, a gaze back, and have courage enough to face your fears, face, the terrible lessons, the things that really hurt, the things that are kind of lurking around that you've been trying to sort of push down, sweep under the carpet, put underneath the sofa, underneath your bed. You live on a futon and you're still trying to sweep it under. You're trying to pack it in the closet. Wherever it is, you're trying to pack it, stuff it away. Maybe you're overeating. Maybe you're oversleeping. You're just trying to push it down. Yet, however, your best ally for healing is rigorous honesty and coming to terms with areas of your own vulnerability and your soft spots, quote unquote, what you might, term as your weaknesses, but they're not. They need to be looked at and coddled and nurtured and cultivated, and to really look at the lessons learned, the red flags, the admittance of I am human, to eat some humble pie, to bring it down a notch, to say, OMG, I have been through it all. And it is to have a new beginning. Oftentimes, like if you watch the Anthony Bourdain series on CNN or Netflix called Places Unknown, he goes to all these remote areas of the world. God rest his soul. He's such a magnificent person. In my viewpoint, the video and the videographer on that show is so extraordinarily talented. If you look at the footage, it's very creative and high end, if you ask me. Very, very talented. But he talks to these places from remote areas of the world, and in even the highest end of Japan and Greece and Italy and Turkey, and all these remote areas that you might never have a chance. But you talk about really the people who have come up. Oftentimes, they have very humble beginnings, and even if they have outer affluence, there's sort of this valley moment that they all have. The cooks who have risen up in that society, they all make their own way. They are your street cart vendors, your entrepreneurs, your people who are making things with their hands, who have family recipes, heirloom seeds that have been passed on for centuries that no one else has. So they're cultivating a specific vegetable or fruit, or they have a certain recipe for age-dried beef, or how they raise their animals, grass-fed, all this stuff that we've gotten so far away from in the commercialized, age that we are in, the information age now, where everything is like, should be on a device or a button. It's really getting back to the sun and the soil, like we talked about in our classes back at university. What is wellness, sun and soil. So that honesty, though, coming back to that sort of organic state that makes you you, that part of you which has been pushed aside, shoved under, told was stupid, told was unimportant, didn't want to listen to you, didn't have the time of day, didn't give you eye contact, didn't give you the hug, didn't give you the pat on the back, didn't give you the acknowledgement of your feelings. That is the core issue, is the inattentiveness and minimizing and dismissiveness of your own sort of inner guttural cry. That, this is not right. I shouldn't have to work this hard for a relationship. I should not be ignored. I should not be shunned. I should not be passed over, like I'm yesterday's liver. Whatever it is that the narcissist has treated you, and I know that this has occurred as part of the manipulation, and it has become toxic, i.e. you have stayed drudged in it for too long. You've soaked it up like a thirsty sponge. You so were in deprivation of your own inner essence because that was not permitted, allowed, or shut down eventually in the relationship. It's crying out to be heard. And oftentimes this is expressed in very hostile, aggressive, or pent up ways, i.e., the fights, the spats, the kind of sort of coming out of character, bringing out the worst of you. And you are then educated to feel less than. Educated meaning it is hounded into you, ground into you, and reinforced so many times. That is stupid. That is not right. It's all about me. It's my way or the highway. I'm in control here. I'm the one in power. So it's like you find yourself in a little microcosm, like back in the day of Confucius, or back in the day when there was, these despotic rulers and everybody else had no food, no water. They were starved. They could not think for themselves. You can look at all sorts of cultures in history. This has occurred. And those people who have risen to power were those people who oftentimes took advantage of and then created a lower class. Anyway, this, in my viewpoint, is like a microcosm that is created from this in a relationship with someone who is narcissistic, psychopathic. They're creating this sort of status in the relationship. It's me, and then there's you. It's me, and then there's you. And then there becomes this really gap, and then a widening gap where you feel that you're then growing in these different directions, and you're coming back to try to regain things in all these sort of disoriented, chaotic, horrific ways. You're crying out to get back on what I call positive, orderly direction thinking. And so along that route, though, there were signs. Going along that path, you're seeing that there are lions, lurking in the dens. There are, these toxic snakes. There are these, animals, or these signs, if you will, that this don't tread here, don't go here. But, to kind of reclaim yourself, you go there anyway. You fight the fight. You go toe to toe. You yell the yelling. You know, throw the throw. You know, go to try to resolve things with the cause of the problem. So you cannot heal when you're immersed in the problem. You cannot heal when you're immersed in the problem. Wounded people wound, healed people heal. Oftentimes, these people who are narcissistic and psychopathic are severely wounded individuals. In other words, and they use the wounding as a tool to keep others sort of in their layer, in their little community of supply, if you will. And you will notice this time and time again once you take some time to step aside and get some perspective. You need to get some perspective, i.e., come out of the dangerous forest. Come out into the meadow. Come out into the sunlight. Come out into the liberation. Come out into the freedom. Soak in the sun. Begin to engage in sort of this depletion of the toxicity, this purging, in this letting go. You know, almost like a sauna that seeps out the toxins. You know, begin to allow yourself to decompress and sort of push out a lot of this this toxicity which you've soaked up or listened to, heard, and then fed your eyes, fed your ears. So it's very important to understand that inner workings of the mind really grab onto the images, particularly that you feed your mind. We're covering a lot of ground here. We're needing to dive deep. We're really needing to go in because I really want to assist you. And so it's to understand, to heal, and to really work, you know, come through it, is to understand how the mind works. They don't teach you this in kindergarten, grade school. I mean, this isn't even an elective unless you read like I did and studied literature, psychology, education, sociology, abnormal psychology, child psychology, the myriad books of, you know, all the abnormal situations that can occur. And so it is to understand that you have three brains. You've got the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, and then the brainstem, which is your subconscious mind. Your limbic brain is like your emotional self, and then your prefrontal cortex, which is the newer developed brain in the past 100,000 years, that's your rational, conscious, what they might call it the egoic mind. So the healing needs to take place in that sort of brainstem unconscious area. And to really get it sorted out and sort of work down the levels and the layers from your prefrontal cortex, your conscious mind, which, using some psychological terms, you know, you've had to use defense mechanisms and repression during these relationships. Defense mechanisms meaning ways of defending and protecting yourself. Becoming an angry person, beginning to drink and drug to numb the pain as a distraction. All the, addictive eating, addictive spending, these sort of activities, which are a numbing effect to sort of that emotional limbic brain, and then that subconscious brain, which is trying to realign itself and get in alignment and reduce that gap between that essence of yourself and then what you're really experiencing in your outer reality. So within, so without. But with the problem is that with a narcissist or psychopathic relationship, as without is not in congruence with what's within, which believe it or not, your body knows the truth. Your body is your greatest resource. You have the truth within you. It's that butterfly in your stomach, that pounding in your heart. It's that clenching of your teeth. It's that bracing up of the muscles. It's that hunching over in depression. Your body is the subconscious mind. So your body has and stores the lessons. So I definitely recommend doing a body scan. In other words, sitting in a mindful meditative state and just doing a body scan to see where the tension is residing. Where are you blocking your truth? Are you clenching your glutes? Are you clenching your teeth? Are you cocking your neck so it's like, are you like, Are you armoring yourself? Are you like drinking a glass of milk and you've got like, looks like you're lifting a 150-pound box? Are you walking around like you've got, weights on your belt loops? Are you constantly feeling like you're weighed down with heavy emotions? Yes, emotions and energy has a weight. So if you could weigh it in and do a body scan, where are you personally holding this tension? You need to go there in your mind's eye and let it go. Oh, but peace and harmony, I can't. I always need to hold on to this. Let it go. The tension oftentimes is this gripping. It's this trying to hold on for dear life, as if you're on a motorboat and you're just holding on the back end, going like this, shaking with anxiety. If I let go, the sharks are going to get me, the emotional sharks. This is an emotional state. This is your physiology. Your physiology is your truth marker. It is, like taking your own temperature. And it is to say furthermore, okay, and what are my lessons learned? What were the red flags that I didn't want to say were red? What was occurring? Can I acknowledge and validate them? What is it for me? I need to be rigorously honest. And then come clean and then have a new beginning. And it's to understand that then this feeling in this, this aftermath of these relationships also oftentimes is this coming out of having a low self-esteem, meaning not really loving yourself. Sounds corny, but it's true. Not really sort of having a sense of confidence, being plagued by chronic self-doubt and self-sabotage, doing things against your best interest. In other words, it is becoming a habit. It has been reinforced time and time again, so it becomes, your personality. This mood over time reinforced becomes a temperament, and then temperament reinforced over time becomes your I am and your identity. So I am an unhappy person. I am an unfulfilled person. I am a lonely person. You begin then to identify with it. I am a alcoholic. I am a da 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 da. I am la 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 la. So you develop this false sense of negative bias. And it is, and then we see this oftentimes in, the anorexia and bulimia, this negative validation. In other words, you have this erroneous, false, negative I am about you. Your core is not lived in. You're living in this sort of egoic mind, what you might call, Vincent Jenna calls the man-made mind. In other words, it's based on this devaluation or false evaluation of the narcissist. In other words, they just use you and squeeze you. Getting back, then you need to come into alignment and come into a peaceful body and begin to really adopt a feeling of sort of indifference, coming into a neutral ground where you're not looking back and saying, I was done so wrong, this shouldn't have happened, because then you're in resistance to your own life. You're pushing away your own past. You're not having a sense of nostalgia and charm and appreciation about the life that you have experienced. Much like Anthony Bourdain and portraying the life of people who have started from humble beginnings, who had this sort of, very, dirt poor sort of earliest beginnings, and being able to come out of and emerge is really where you need to be. You need to kind of come back to this plateau or this foundation within you, which is cleared out, clean and clear, and allowing to adopt a sense of non-judgment about yourself in life. Because if you say, this was horrible, this person did me wrong, you're always going to be in this moral struggle. You're going to stay in the fight. You're going to stay in that whatever they have created for you. So it's to separate yourself and stop, and calm that down and come to a state of indifference and neutrality. But peace and harmony, this would just say, I'm going to let them get away with it. What's done is done. What is. And so it is. And believe it or not, this is by divine order. If you resist that, you are resisting and you're staying in this tension within yourself. You're allowing that negative relationship to define you, which is false, which is erroneous thinking. That is not your truth. This relationship does not define you. You are bigger and more than that. So you have to allow that and then become expansive. Once you are able to come into then a more neutral state of non-judgment, you're able to stop evaluating this. Yes, you're doing that so you don't fall back, but you have to come clean and acknowledge your lessons learned. In other words, what were the red flags? And then also, furthermore, we've got another exercise which I'm going to call coming to know yourself. And before we wrap up, I really want to engage in this, and you need to really look at your hands and look at your own hands, and what do your own hands tell you? Write this down now. See if you can fill in 2 notebook pages. If you can just look into the palm of your hands, what do your hands say? We're going to follow up with some examples.